All right, guys. Zach Twardowski here. I got my buddy Tanner here.
What's up, Zach?
Tanner is a local Austinite now, I guess is what you call it. I've only been here a year, so I'm not a local either.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone from here is, but no. So Tanner, you were in the insurance industry you've been in the industry for how long?
About like a year.
About a year, and you've been working with Family First Life with us for this will be your third month, right?
Yeah,
third
exactly.
full-time month. At another company for a while, and then after a couple months here, you decided, hey, I'm going to come out to Austin, spend a bunch of time with, around the other guys, us in the office, learn how to build, selling, and kind of like immerse yourself fully in the business. But I guess, first thing I want to go back and like, what was your background before you got into insurance, the first place you worked at? How did you get in the industry in the first place?
Yeah. So I was just in college. I was a busser at a restaurant, the Ritz-Carlton up in Santa Barbara. I was there for like about a year, and then I've always been like interested in getting into sales, running a business, but I just didn't know where to start. I looked at like remote closing, and I saw that might be a good opportunity. So I jumped into that, and I bought like a sales course.
Nice.
I got super interested into it. It turned up not being like exactly what it said it was going to be, but I did that for 5 months, and I kind of just got like the feeling of what it was like to be in sales. And then
That was the first insurance job.
no, so that was
Okay.
just regular like remote sales, just closing like a high ticket coaching program.
Got it.
So I did
For
that.
like one of the like sales guru.
Exactly,
coaching.
just
Okay,
like
cool.
an
Got it.
Instagram influencer.
Yeah. Got it.
So I did that for a little bit, and then I just wasn't seeing success, so I was looking to stay in sales but look for another opportunity. And when I found insurance, I was like, well, I've always wanted to own a business one day, and I've always wanted to work in sales. And I found that insurance was kind of like exactly a sales business in a way.
Yeah.
So I just made the jump into that company that I first started at and didn't really see success, but I knew if I stick with it for a while, maybe something will come after it. And then after 10 months, I knew I had to switch like Family First Life, and thank God I did that.
Did you finish college? You drop out partway through, or what was that situation like?
So I'm actually like still enrolled in college.
Oh, cool.
So I'm like
Where?
San Diego State.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I just take online classes. I got like 5 or 6 left, just gonna finish those off. But I definitely had an idea of like maybe I'll just drop out, but I'm so close. Parents want me to finish, so I'm just gonna finish it out.
Dude, I kind of like that because it's like you're like, I'm not a quitter and I committed to do something. So like I understand people drop out,
Yeah.
and I think a popular argument in like our world, like the entrepreneur world, is like college has no value at all and it's like dumb and you don't need it. And but like I also look at it, and I went to college for something that has nothing to do with what we do now, right?
Yeah.
Like I was pre-med, like biochemistry was my actual major. But I'm like, dude, it taught me how to like think critically, how to study. And like I think a lot of this industry is like getting good at studying people that are doing well and copying it.
For sure.
And it taught me how to manage my time really well because I was doing that plus playing sports. And I think you're having to do both because you're, selling, building business, and finishing college. Like, has the time management part been hard for you to do both? Or, and I guess, do you just want to make your parents happy, or do you just like, I just don't want to quit anything?
No, I mean, it's definitely like not wanting to quit, but I'm also just so close.
Yeah.
So I feel like I might as well do it. But yeah, time management's huge. Like running a business, being in college, like being super young, you have to be good at managing your time, or else you will fail in one part. So I think being able to manage your time super well and like set schedules for certain things that you're going to do, you're able to finish like a lot more than you actually think than kind of just randomly doing things here and there.
What do your parents do for work, and what did they think about like you doing insurance sales like full time?
Yeah. So my mom's a dog walker.
Okay.
She runs like her dog walking business. And then my dad does like waste management on the side at like some festivals here and there. And I mean,
Does he have a full-time job, or is that his full-time gig? Is the waste management?
That's his full-time gig. And I mean, my parents, they love it like now, but at first it was like, hey, you're not really making money at like when I was at my old job, and kind of like, maybe my mom always wanted me like a firefighter. It's a safe route. You get a good pension when you retire. Like there's really good benefits. And I was always just like, there's just not the future that I want to live within that job.
Yeah.
So I need to start something now while I'm young. And they love me now because I'm doing great. But at first it was kind of like, I got to prove them right. And it took time, but now they support me 100%.
Dude, so I have a different perspective. So I used to always have the perspective that like your parents like don't want you to follow their dreams, and then I had two kids, right? So like I was 22. It feels like yesterday. I was 22, started this business, and then I've been doing it for 7 years now. 7 years in October, or sorry, December. So we're almost right at 7 years. And then 2 years ago, I had my first kid, daughter, and then I had a son a month and a half ago.
Awesome.
And now I realize I'm like, oh, like I think like parents probably just they don't want you to not like follow your dreams. They just want to make sure you're gonna be okay.
100%.
You know? And I've started, and it's like my kids are little, so it's different, but I kind of can like see forward how that would, and I think it's a hard when you're the kid, you're like, you're trying to hold me back. But to your point, like once you proved that it was working well and that you weren't getting scammed, because the insurance industry has a bad rap of people not making money. The average agent makes $30,000 in the industry, according to LIMRA.
Crazy.
You know, which is terrible. You know, and so there's all these negatives to it. And I think once you're, like you said, once your parents saw you doing well, you're like, okay, like he knows what he's doing. And you could tell them like, look, guys, I got this. You raised me to be, you know, this independent thinker. Exactly. It sounds like your parents are both in business for themselves. Did you always see yourself as being a business person in the future? Is that kind of how you were raised, or like, what was that like growing up?
I wouldn't say I was raised that way. Like I said, my mom wanted me to take the safe route. Yeah. Like just make sure you're fine, like get good benefits.
But she's an independent, like owns her own business, right?
Yeah, she does. But I mean, it took her a while to kind of scale up her business and stuff. And she does good for herself. But I've always had like a business mindset. I always knew I wanted to do something, but it really kind of just clicked like a year and a half ago, just like when I committed to like investing money into like that sales course that I got into. Yeah. But I've always had the mindset when I was growing up, but it never really fully clicked until about 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah. What did, so you invested in that sales, whatever it was one of those guys on Instagram who knows sales. You invested in that, and your job was to sell their courses to other people. Is that what it was?
Exactly.
I think a lot of people, if I'm guessing, a lot of people would have done that and they would have felt, how much money did you make doing that?
I was making $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month. Yeah. Okay. So total, how much did you make doing that?
Like 5,000 in 5 months.
And did you spend any money?
So like I spent 5,000. I basically made nothing.
So you made zero.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the $1,000 a month for that you were spending?
So that was for like the $5,000 sales course. So it costed $5,000.
Oh, it cost $5,000.
I got into it, started selling for 5 months until I called it quits. So basically every dollar I put in, I made, but it all went out. So I profited zero.
And you were getting, how much commission were you getting when you sold something?
I was getting 10% off like 1,000 to like a $5,000 program.
Got it.
So like $100, some 500, but realistically like $100.
Where were you finding people for that? Were you just cold calling people or finding people on social media, or what was the what was the strategy?
They actually ran like the ads, like if you see those gurus selling coaching programs, it's just like that. And so it was just like young people interested. But it was really hard because I wasn't really good at it. I didn't really get. What
was your pitch like? Like what would you have said to me to close me on that?
I mean, I barely even remember that script anymore, but it's basically just hammering in the fact that like, hey, you're young, like sales can make you a lot of money. Like you have to invest money to make money.
Invest in yourself.
Yeah, it's basically invest in yourself. But realistically, like it didn't work out. I barely made money, and the business it's not even there anymore.
Got it. So you did that, and then I think a lot of people would have done something like that and been like, I kind of got burned, didn't like that so much, made $5,000 but spent $5,000, made no money, spent a lot of time doing it, and they would have like never done sales again, right? Yeah. So why do you think from there then you looked for another sales job? Was it just like something you felt like you could get good at if you found the right vehicle, or like were you just kind of crazy? You're like, I'll figure something out. Yeah. What do you think like led you to look for another sales job?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely crazy, but I would say like the fact that I understood like how sales works. It's like you eat what you kill. If you work really hard, you're going to get rewarded into that. And I've always been like a social kid growing up, and I feel like I talk really well. Yeah. So I knew that if I got the right opportunity, it would work well. I didn't know where to start. And then when I saw insurance, the fact that you can build a business and passive income, I was like, I have to try this. I just have to.
Got it. And then, so you were at your first insurance company for a little while. What were a few things you learned there about the insurance industry that you liked, didn't like? Because I think a lot of people like talk about their company, and like I very subjectively believe that our company is the best platform, but I do believe it because I've been here for 7 years. But I think a lot of people start with that and forget to talk about like how amazing the industry is, because it really is amazing. Like industry with a super low barrier to entry. Like you basically have to pay for your state license and that's it, you know, and you can get rolling. And you don't have to buy, you can get started in insurance by door knocking, friends and family, messaging people. Like there's a very low barrier to start making money. And then you can build a business without paying franchise costs, which is amazing. And you have good upfront commissions and great residual commissions on some products. So like the industry is awesome. And half of Americans don't have enough life insurance or any life insurance, right? So the market is huge. So like I think people sometimes go like, my company's this great, but I'm like, you should talk about how amazing the industry is and how it's recession proof, how the companies are super stable, very liquid. Like the industry's not going anywhere. And companies have tried to automate it and they can't. So they'll always need agents, right? AI will never be able to take agents' spot for insurance. So like were any of those things or some of those things what stood out to you about the industry at the first company you worked at?
1,000%. So like the fact that it's recession proof, because I know a lot of like, for example, like being a loan officer, like it's going to go up and down every single year. So I learned that it's recession proof no matter what's happening in the economy. It's going to grow every single year. And then really a main factor is like being able to get like passive income, because like that's the end goal. Like you want to build something to where you have that time freedom and you can still get paid. So when I learned about passive income insurance, I was like, this is something that I'm going to go all in. And if it takes 5-10 years, like I'm going to do everything it takes.
Have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Of course.
Dude, everyone I know that wants to make passive income is because of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read that book when I was in college still. And that like changed my mindset on everything. And I don't know if you've done this or not, but I went back and reread it like 6 months ago. And I was like, wow, I followed this thing like pretty close. It's kind of scary how like I read it one time in college, actually maybe when I graduated college before I started insurance. And I'm like, I followed a lot of it very well. Like, you know, if you want to buy, you know, a depreciating asset, pay for it with passive income. Like, and I looked back at some of the trainings I've done. I've trained in conferences in front of like, hey, I only buy luxuries with, you know, with passive income. So if I couldn't work, they'd get paid for it. Like that concept made a lot of sense to me. And you're right. Insurance can provide that in two ways, really. Like one, you can make good upfront money so you can buy other assets. And two, you can build a business that's passive, you know, that you don't have to work every day and you still spit out money. Right.
Yeah. 1,000%. Like that book honestly changed my life. I remember when I was reading it, like when I was living with my mom and I like started telling her about it, she was thinking I was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, stop listening to this. Like, this doesn't make sense. And I was like, telling her what I was learning. I was like, Mom, you're doing everything wrong. Like, all these credit card things that you're doing, like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But she just didn't believe me. She thought I was crazy.
Yeah. No, it's funny, dude. The amount of people I've talked to that have built like big businesses. I remember Andrew Taylor told me that he read that book when he was working at the grocery store when he was 18 before he got in insurance too. And I was like, dude, I read that book right before I was in insurance. And I was like, Robert Kiyosaki should have started an insurance agency because he would recruit a lot of people, because the amount of people I know that have read that and then gotten insurance is a lot. So you were at the first company for a little while. What were some of the things that led you to make a change and come work with FFL? And what are some of the things you think give us an advantage in the industry? That's a massive industry.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing came down to like mainly the leads. Like I was super limited to leads because I was on free leads, but I was getting about 5 to 10 per week. And I started realizing after a couple months, they were just run through by my managers and then passed to me. And they were like 2 to 3 years old. So everyone that I would call, they're pretty much not interested in the first place. And then also it's kind of like a bait and switch. So it's like, hey, here's the free union programs, and then I'm going to sell you life insurance. Yeah. And after doing that for a while, I just didn't really like it. And I knew I needed to switch. I knew I was good at insurance. I just needed to find that new opportunity with the right company. And honestly, thank God I switched, because like being able to have like the unlimited leads based on what you want to do per week, like it's changed the game, and I can actually achieve goals that I genuinely didn't think was possible in a very, very quick time span.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people come in and they want to get a lot better at sales. And a lot of the way that we sell comes from being able to be super assumptive with people and to parse through whether or not they're going to buy quickly, right? But people want to do they want to get really good at sales and be able to sell that way, but you can't do it without enough lead flow, right? And I think what clicked for me finally was like, oh, when I have so many leads to call where I'm spending $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 a week on leads, where I have so many to get through, like the ones that are wasting your time, you're like, dude, I have so many more leads to call. I don't have time for this. And then some of those people will buy from you because they're like, oh, that guy's serious. And then you just get to collect all the laydowns, right? And that's when I realized selling became easy, is like, you're not trying to beg everyone else. You're just trying to sift through, be super assumptive, and take people that want to buy. What are a few things you've learned from being here that have helped you in sales to be like not salesy, but to be like a good order taker, if that makes sense?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, not being salesy is like super important. You just want to sound like you're just a medical underwriter just getting back to you about the request. And that's something that kind of took a little bit of time to realize because, you know, it is sales, but at the end of the day, like no one wants to be sold something.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't like being sold something. No one likes to be sold something. So you have to take the part
and everyone likes to buy stuff.
Exactly.
Everyone loves buying stuff.
Everyone likes to buy stuff. So you have to take the part of like, you're just an order taker. I'm just here to do my job and really find out their needs. And I think once I kind of figured that out and honed in on just being simple about it, it really changed everything.
What are a few of the questions you ask clients to like figure out their needs in just like a very matter of fact, I'm just here to take your order kind of fashion?
Yeah. So, I mean, like the first main question would be like, now, was your main concern, like most veterans, you know, just wanting to make sure that the funeral expenses doesn't fall a burden on your loved ones?
Yeah.
Like that'll be that main one that I go into. And then like when I recap everything, I always say like, okay, so your goal is just to make sure that those funeral expenses doesn't fall a burden on your loved ones and really just give that peace of mind to your wife, Betty, when you pass away. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Very simple, just like that.
And I think a lot of people, like what you said, super intentional, right? Which is like, you already know the answer you want them to give, which is like, hey, I just want to cover my burial.
Yeah.
I think where some people make a mistake when they're selling insurance or anything else is they go like, hey, like, why'd you fill this out? And if you ask an open-ended question, like you're leaving so many ways they could go. They could say, because I saw the ad on Facebook. They could say, because I'm a veteran, I saw marketing towards veterans. They could say a million different things, right? But if you say, hey, I assume you're like everyone else I talk to, every other veteran I talk to is looking to make sure they get this in place so that if they die, that their funeral is covered. Is that what you're looking for? They have to go so far out of their way to disagree with you. Most people are like, no, and it is what they're looking for, but you're directing them to the right question, right? And you're being intentional with the way you're asking it. And I think a lot of people are like, hey, why'd you fill this out? It's like, no, it's a dumb question. Don't ask dumb questions. Ask good questions to get them to go the direction, you know, that you have them go. The other thing you mentioned is like, you got the wife's name was Betty. Like, what does that sound like when you're uncovering who the beneficiary is and why it's important to them? Because I think sometimes people get the first thing you said, like, oh yeah, I want to cover my funeral, but they don't figure out who will be responsible for it if they die. So like, how do you go dig a little deeper and figure out the beneficiary and why it's important? Like, what does that little segment sound like?
Yeah, so I would say like, now God forbid, you know, if you were to pass away, John, who would be that beneficiary responsible paying for all those funeral expenses and picking up all the pieces?
My wife, Betty.
Hey, your wife, Betty, okay. Now, is your wife, Betty, is she in a financial position to cover those funeral expenses, or is that why you're looking into this?
Probably not. I don't know exactly how much it is, but probably not.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. That's why most veterans, they do send in these requests so their loved ones just aren't burdened with those expenses on one of the hardest days of their life. And I'm gonna just go into that. But like back on what you said, like asking the right questions is like super important. And like I'll tailor my questions to me knowing what they're already gonna say, but I want them to tell me. Because I can tell them everything, but if it comes out of their mouth, they actually understand and feel it a lot more. Yeah. So I think that's super important.
Well, and people like to do things because it's their idea, right? Like not because someone else tells them to do it. Like we're all like, people don't like being told what to do. No. So they don't like salespeople, right? Yeah. Like they don't like to go to the car lot and have some dude like force them into buying some car they don't want, right? But everyone likes looking at a car online and like designing something like, oh, I want that car. You know, same thing here. It's like, hey, I'm just assuming you filled this out because of this, and this reason, just like everyone else, and this is what you're looking for, right? Yeah, that is why I did that. Like, oh, okay, cool. And now it's your idea. Now we're rolling with your idea forward, right? Yeah. The other thing that you mentioned a lot that if people are watching this and don't do this, you should, is like, hey, I assume that you're just like everyone else in XYZ situation. Yeah. You could be selling mortgage protection, final expense, IULs, hey, I assume you're like everyone else who's looking for an IUL and you haven't set up your retirement yet and you need something both for life insurance and retirement. Does that sound right? Yeah. Right. Hey, I assume you're like everyone else just got a home. You're worried if you die that your wife and kids aren't going to be able to stay in the house without your income. Is that correct? You know, so you just insert whatever the problem that those people you're marketing to have, and everyone's going to agree with you, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, and like everyone wants to do what everyone does. So like if they have an idea that like, you know, they want to do burial or like they want to cover funerals, that's why everyone does this.
Yeah.
Like you want to make them feel like, hey, everyone does this. And then they feel a lot more comfortable because they want to do what other veterans want to do.
Right.
So like tailoring it that way and saying it specifically, it's really important.
Yeah. Now, what are a few things, like a lot of people are scared to, a lot of people are scared to build up to where they have enough leads coming in to where they're not begging each different client. And it's hard to want to spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on leads. Like, dude, I remember when I started, I had probably $500 in my bank account and a credit card with a $500 limit. Like I had no money really. So spending $500 on leads was half my net worth. I'm like, damn, this better work. Right. And then, you know, just reinvesting back into it, it made sense. Cause I was like, I'm already broke. I have nothing to lose really. So like, screw it. Let's keep rolling. And I just wanted to build up my bank account. From your mindset, like, was it easy for you just to reinvest back into leads? Was it hard to part with money right away? Cause some people have a hard time wanting to, you know, okay, you got 2,000 in leads. They have a hard time going, let me take 1,000 of that and put it back into lead. Or I got 2,000 from commission. I'm going to put 1,000 back in leads. Like some people have a hard time breaking that W-2 mindset and becoming a business owner. Yeah. Like what's some advice you give people how you got through that?
Yeah, of course. So like personally for me, like I've never been scared to invest into myself and into the business because like I just look at it as a fact like, well, if I spend more money, that means I'm getting more leads. That means I'm going to talk to more people, present to more people, and then actually make more sales. Yeah. And then when like Wiley broke it down to me, he was like, hey, so if you go to the ATM on Sunday and you throw $1,000 in there and then it spits back 5,000, would you do it again? I was like, well, of course. And understanding that like the fact of the matter is like this is a business, it has expenses. Whoever puts more money into it is going to make more. Yeah. So I think it's really simple for me, but I do understand why it's scared for people to do it. Mm-hmm. But I think once they make that jump and they actually get better at sales, the more money they spend, the more they're going to make. Yeah. I think the one reason that could be hard for people too is they think they have to be good at sales to be good at what we do. And like what we do is almost offensive to people that are good at sales. Like you sold stuff that's hard to sell, right? Yeah. Yeah. Like to be, whoever makes a lot of money selling that stuff is probably really good at sales, right? What we do is not really sales. Like we're marketing to someone who's looking for a specific type of insurance. Then you're calling that person about the type of insurance that they want and selling them that type of insurance, right? Like it's a very straight line deal. Yeah. Or even at your old company, like it was bait and switch. Like you have to be decent at sales to do this. You did. Like with ours, you have to be good at being, you know, direct to people on the phone, being personable, talking slowly and at least somewhat clearly, you know, and then just doing the right thing by the clients and being a sincere person they feel like they can be in business with, and then reinvesting in the leads a lot. If you do that stuff, you can be good at it. And I think a lot of people in their training are like, here's how my, 36 ways to close an appointment. None of that stuff matters. Get enough leads, call them. Some people are going to say yes, right? Yeah. What are a few things you've learned as, to shift gears a little bit? Like your goal is to recruit and to build a team, right? Yeah. What are some of the things you've learned about recruiting, building a team? Like, some of the early successes or failures you've had, like, and what are your thoughts about building a team moving forward? Yeah. So like, I have big goals in building a team, and like what I realized is like, well, this has changed my life like so fast. Like I'd be selfish not to like extend the opportunity to other people. What I've realized is like not everyone is going to get off to like a very quick start. Yeah. So understanding that it's going to take time for people and like basically making them understand like, hey, this works. If you work, it might just take a little bit more time for you. Mm-hmm. It's not for everybody, but it will work if you do put in the work. And I think getting someone to work like specific hours and stay consistent to it, that person will be better every single time because they stay consistent and they care. Yeah. I'm still slowly building up my team. I have like about 10 or 11 people coming in right now, which is awesome. And like my goal is to build like $1 million a month agency by the end of next year. Nice. I think I can definitely do that. But understanding the fact that like, hey, some people are going to take a little bit longer than others, and not like getting frustrated with them because maybe they're just 1 week from like making everything click.
Yeah.
So just being patient with everyone is something that I've realized so far.
Yeah, I had to learn. That was hard for me to learn because you'll have some people come in and like want it really bad and they're working really hard, and then you can match that energy and help them, and you're like, wow, like that was easy. Like that guy started crushing it.
Yeah.
And you have other people who come in and they're like, you know, they're either sometimes they're working really hard and they're not closing yet, and it's taking a while for them to get it, and you get frustrated because you're like, you should be good at this. Or people who are not working that hard but you think could be good. And what I had to learn was just to get good at as much effort and as much as they want out of it is where I meet people at. And if they want less, like I let them do less. That's okay.
Yeah.
But like, hey, when you're ready to do more, let me know. I'm here for you, you know? And instead of trying to like jump down everyone's throat and make them do what you want them to do, like ask what they want to, same as we're selling, right? When you're selling, like, hey, I assume you're doing this because you want to do X, Y, or Z, right? Like, hey man, I assume you want to sell more. If you want to sell more, like how much you want to sell a month? 30. Okay. Well, for you to sell 30, you're going to have to do this, this, and this. You know, if you want to, are you willing to do those things to get to 30? Yeah. So the same thing is when you're selling with building, you have to make it their idea and then help them get there. But if it's your idea, the agents won't want to do it either, you know? So you have to get good at having those conversations, meeting people where they're at, and then, you know, learning different personalities and how to gel with different people.
1,000%. Like when I first brought my first couple of people on, like I wanted them to kill it instantly, like start making tons of money. And then after a week, I like had conversations with them and I was like, hey, like, what do you want to make per month?
Yeah.
Like, what are you looking for? And then they're going to tell you. And then I'm like, okay, perfect. Now I have a good idea of what they want. So I can't get mad at them for not working like 15 hours a day, 12 hours a day like I do, because they just have different goals. So tailoring it to what they want and like actually understanding, I think is something that is honestly helping me when I bring people in now.
Yeah. And it'll, you know, it's building's one of those things where you continue to have to learn different things. And I'm sure you'll have a lot more questions. And as you start to figure it out, like how do you deal with different situations that come up? But it's what I've learned with building is it's a lot more delayed gratification. Like selling is great because you sell something, get paid tomorrow. Buildings, like you plant seeds, wait, water them, check them. But it's like you can't go dig it up every 6 seconds either. You know, you gotta, okay, I planted the seeds, I watered them, the sun's out, like, okay, I'll keep waiting. You know, and eventually you'll have all these, you know, this garden popping up after time, but you just have to keep planting the right seeds and putting the right work in. And eventually you'll go, wow, like that consistency paid off in the long run. But it's hard to see early on, you know. And if you're a top salesperson, you're like, I want to see the results now. Like, why aren't you there yet? You know, so it's easy to be hard on yourself. But man, this has been great. I appreciate, you know, how much you're selling off the bat. What are you selling per month right now on average?
Yeah, so last month was 51,000.
Got it.
And then the month before was about 40,000.
Got it. And when you're selling 50,000, if you're at, let's say, if you're at 100% comp or 80, let's say you're at 100% comp, if you're selling 50. Well, I guess, do you know what did you gross last month?
Yeah, so before lead expense was about like 26,000, and then after it was about 20,000.
About 20,000.
That's being at 85%.
And that was your first month. You started at 85% comp, so now you get comp raises.
Yeah.
You'll be up to 115 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So you'll make, you know,
like 30 or
30% more.
Yeah,
it's a big jump up.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can go from making, you know, 1,000 or negative or basically zero for 5 months to making $30,000 a month. How many hours a week do you think you work to get where you made that $20,000 last month?
A solid 12 hours minimum per day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're spending about 2,000 a week on leads?
I spend 1,500 a week.
1,500 a week on leads. Got it. And that's a lot of the new agents I hear from. They're like, you want me to spend $1,500 a week on leads? I was like, if you went to a banker on Wall Street and said, hey, I'm going to spend $1,500 on something, and then next week it'll pay me $3,000. Yours is a lot better than that. You're spending $1,500 and it's bringing you, you know, about $8,000 a week, right? But if you told them I'm going to spend $1,500 and it's going to bring me $3,000 next week, you know what they would say? Say, how many times can I effing do that per day, per second? They do it all day long. Yeah. They'd say, can I invest every $1 billion that I have into that, right? And I think people look at it, they're like, oh, but it's my 1,500. It's like, well, dude, believe in yourself. What we do is not that hard, you know, and anyone can do that if they're willing to put the effort into it. It's amazing what you've done, but I think you're going to bring a lot of people with you to do the same exact thing, man.
I appreciate it. No, I'm super excited. Like how this has already changed my life after like 1 to 2 months. Like, I just want to change other people's life, especially like close friends, even just like anyone that I come in contact with, because I know what it's done for me. And if someone just like commits, they believe in themselves, like they can really achieve like fast goals faster than like they ever believe. So I'm excited to grow, and I'm excited to bring people on and help them achieve what they want.
Yeah. I mean, dude, if anyone's in the Austin area, come into our office. He's here now every day. Keep killing it. If anyone is watching this, wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you? Phone, Instagram? What do you prefer? So
I would say my Instagram, just my first and last name, Tanner, TANNER .Mendelsohn, MENDELSOHN. And then my phone number is 310-623-0299. So shoot me a text, call, hit me up on Instagram. Love to bring people into the office.
Awesome. All right. If you're looking for someone to work with, want to do this business, hit Tanner up. If y'all want to come into the office ever in Austin, we're here selling everything.